What made you lose respect for someone? My dad, who went full-on right-wing nut Trump cheerleader, told me in a satirical way that I should watch more Fox News. I'm transgender, he/him. I play COD with my guy best friend and his brothers. He and his two younger brothers have known me for years, before I transitioned. His youngest brother was at the bottom of the leaderboard the whole time and was mad. He slurred at me, used my dead name, and started using other pronouns for me, all because he was mad. Everyone stood up for me and knew he was being disrespectful. Then he wondered why I wouldn't 1v1 him. Lost all respect for him in that moment. I found out that one of my colleagues is an anti-vaxxer, but like the crazy kind. We were polishing knives and forks while talking and somehow the conversation fell onto the COVID vaccine. Now I am going to be vaccinated today and she actually tried to tell me that corona is weaker than the normal flu. Your star signs determine the time of your death and that vaccines are nothing more than a hoax to make money. I of course asked her to clarify why she thinks that vaccines are a hoax. She told me the basic stuff of like using baby cells in the vaccine, non-proven benefits, and she actually asked me why if vaccines were so good for us, why couldn't you get vaccinated against cancer? Even before she dropped that bombshell of knowledge on me, I had a long day and I was certainly not ready to unpack that amount of bullshit while fishing with my hands in hot acidic water for silverware. But I will do some research to find credible German sources, so that I may inform her of actual ongoings, but until that she lost all of the professionalism I once viewed her with. Drinking and driving. If you do it, you are trash. Period. I had a friend that was real cheap. I had a lot of money and I didn't mind spending a lot. It'd pay for his gas, the food, movies, etc., and he would never ever pay me back or offer to buy stuff for me at all. I guess it's my fault that I was stupid enough to keep hanging. The fact that they demanded for undeserved respect. Deleted. When I was 14, I noticed that my friend was just an asshole and only had me and many others as a friend to use us for school. That means he always wanted us to do things for him, like homework. After I found out my professor dated the class hoe. He was my favorite professor as well, and the same goes for my friends, but yeah, it happens. One of my colleagues beats his GF. He has a pretty unique name, so when I've mentioned his name to people I know, I've gotten the rumor confirmed. She has tried to leave him but came back. Even lost the children for a while. I can't stand to see his face anymore. Bragged about doing time for attempted murder. She spit on her car to clean bird shit with her mask. Happy Cake Day. Not many will see this, but people lost respect for me when I revealed to them I self-harmed. Self-destructiveness may be a primary form of communication for those who do not yet have ways to tame their excruciating inner conflicts and feelings and who cannot yet turn to others for support. Apologizing to a country for saying a country is a country. A dude I was good friends with told me that to him white people are superior. I am white, but I am not racist, and I refuse to be a friend to one. A friend of mine contracted COVID and tested positive. She still went and bought snacks in the grocery store knowing she was positive. It would take a really long time and would take up a lot of space to write down everything about my dad. So here's a bullet list. Refused to change his lazy, selfish behavior when my mum was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Refused to spend a penny towards my mum's care. Literally expected everything to be provided if he kicked off about it. Mentally and emotionally abused me while I was working as my mum's primary carer. Going so far as to threaten me with eviction just for calling a district nurse for help. When my mum was in hospital, he would routinely disappear for long stretches. We assumed he was visiting her, but we've got strong suspicions that he was actually meeting up with the woman he's now married to. Oh yeah, got remarried less than a year after my mum died. Had the audacity to try and introduce her to me as his landlord beforehand. Eventually forced me to leave my home and mum because I couldn't take his shit anymore. As a result, I was robbed of any real chance to say bye to mum before she died. Last year my granddad, father's side, died. His body was still warm whilst my dad went through his stuff and took a watch he's always wanted. This year my nan died, father's side. He didn't show up because, I quote, "I don't want to take part in the circus." So yeah. If I'm honest with myself, I'd be hard-pressed to say I ever had respect for him, but this short list makes it pretty clear that he never deserves any in the first place. Late for many times. A former friend of mine is really cheap. She would not eat at a restaurant but rather do a picnic. I find this very creative and it a good cheap. She's the type of person that only brings out cash when it is needed, so she never brings her debit/credit card on her. I am also a bit cheap. I usually never eat outside and I always have my lunch for money saving purpose. We were shopping and she got hungry. She spent her last pennies on a console game and she was really not feeling well. I felt bad and I had to do something, so I offered her to eat at the closest fast food, which was McDo. We both had our combos and we called it a day. She was thankful and all. Fast forward 2 years later, I saw her at my university and she was working part-time at the university's book reselling booth. I usually visit her from time to time to catch up with her until one day, she forgot her lunch. I asked her what she wanted to eat and she wanted some Subways. I took notes of what she wanted and rushed to the nearest Subway, which was 15 minutes away if I speed walked. When I got to Subway, I was greeted by another friend of mine who was working there, so I just paid whatever he told me to pay for the 12-inch and I rushed back to her. My friend only had a $20 bill, so I went to make some changes for her. When I was back with the changes, she said I had to give her back the $20 because according to the bill, I was only charged for a 6-inch. Turns out my friend at Subway gave me the other 6-inch free, so she took the free 6-inch. I thought she was joking, but she was dead serious. After giving her back the $20 in change, she threw me the bag with the other 6-inch and called me a thief. I never talked or visited her again. Knew someone in high school that was sort of in my friend group for a while. That all changed when he called one of my best friends a defective human being. Trumpism. My son's best friend moved away. I have loved him most of his life. He was a funny, kind, generous child. But things have changed over this last year and it culminated at the last election. He'd said some things that I dismissed, bigoted. I tried to convince myself it was a misunderstanding. But because it hurt to hear those things, not because they were out of context. That was hard to face, because I didn't want to see it, but when he told my son he would vote for Trump over Biden, I lost all respect for him. I still love him, I always will, because that sweet little boy is in there somewhere. But my heart is broken and no, I can't justify flying him back out here again under this cloud. Hurts. I had a friend that took me to the store once because I didn't have a car at the time. I had just lost my job due to COVID and didn't have a lot of money. She still worked there and was very well off. She lived 10 to 15 minutes from me, so I offered her gas expecting to give her $5, $15. She filled her whole tank, $40. There were other things as well, but that's the thing that made me just ghost her. My boss that I once considered a friend of mine. At my work, I got assigned to oversee a procurement of supplies. We hired a rent-a-car type of service, but we got there late because of traffic. When we got there, I begged the supplier to give us the supplies. They agreed, even though they were closing. When we got back, boss told me to not give the rent-a-car their pay, around $70 for 10 hours of driving. Conditions were also awful. Hot plus traffic equals death. I couldn't do it. I gave their pay. My boss insists and says he'll take it out of the paycheck of someone else and not mine. I couldn't bear the guilt. I left right there and then. TLDR. Boss is my friend, but is an ass. Saw him beat his wife. One of my friends I thought were one of my best friends got into a relationship with my best friend I have known my entire life. Now their relationship slowly went downhill. And this is where I started to lose all respect for the girl. She was flirty with his best friend at the time and later cheated on him with his best friend twice, and continued to fuck 10 different dudes after, and she acts like a victim. She blamed everything on him, ruined his relationships with his family, all his friends, and all this knowing his bad situation in life. Now skip forward to this year. He is finally 17 and doesn't want to waste his final year of being a teenager on a girl, so he breaks up with her. What does she do? Well, she tells a bunch of people he beats women and a bunch of other shit, and told other people his address and number etc. I didn't include half the shit that happened between them, and even between me and that person I have overall lost all bit of respect for that piece of shit.